if it were me, I would release movies like this, Clayface, like do 2 or 3 villain pieces, but make them creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And then do like a Purge style Batman movie where like all of the creepiest villains have decided that tonight's the night that they take over Gotham, and Batman just has to face like one horror show after the other. Welcome back to the show we are now calling Multiverse of Merriment. I'm Nina here with Justin again, and this week on our journey into all things nerdy, we are talking about a couple of old TV shows, Psych and Dexter. We're talking about Toy Story and The Lion King, and we'll tell you why later on. The Witcher Season 4 and how we feel about the switch from Cavill to Hemsworth. But up first, we got a trailer this week for a movie that looks pretty interesting, actually.
Looks scary.
Clayface. Maybe the scariest thing DC has ever made?
Yeah. Besides that dreaded Aquaman movie, I think that was terrifyingly bad.
So shall we watch this trailer in real time?
Let's check it out.
And let's see what we think.
To be honest, I wasn't so sure. I knew they were making this movie, but I didn't know I knew they were going to make this movie. I did not know how far along they had. So when this trailer dropped, I was surprised because I didn't even know they had started rolling cameras.
Yeah. And to be clear, I knew nothing about this trailer until you told me about it.
I knew they were making
it wasn't on my radar at all.
Yeah.
All right. So here we go. Tell me if you want to pause and talk about any of these scenes as they come up.
All right. I love that stare.
Yeah, immediately creepy.
I'm not sure I recognize him as an actor.
Let me just say, I really like the flip back and forth between like real time and that like just like camera,
really
scrolling in on that stare. It's so like classic horror in a way.
I was wondering a few shots back. I was wondering if we got a tease for Joker, because did you see like the clown thing when she's like the lights and whatnot? Like, is this like around here? Like
this.
What is that? Excitement and thrills this way, amusement.
But it says something else, doesn't it?
Like, I'm wondering if that's
text. It's just the expression changes.
Oh yeah, the expression did change. It went from like a sewed mouth to something.
Yeah, to like a smile.
I wonder if that's like a Joker teaser thing. Is that what that could that be that? I don't know. Am I reading too much into that just because it's a clown?
I don't know. I mean, he is the most notorious clown in the DC universe.
Yeah,
so
and they're rebuilding the DC. They're rebuilding it, so you'd think like the Joker is going to appear in one of these new Batman movies at some point.
Yeah.
Right there. I love when the shadow on the wall there of being like the big like there right there, like I love that because like the big ball with the spikes, because Clayface always can kind of make his hand, when he was fighting Batman as Clayface, he would always make his hand like an axe or a big ball with like spikes on it, because he would like make the weapons come out of him because he can form any shape he wants. So I like that they show the big ball in the club thing, because that shows you that he's going to be able to do that too.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool.
In English and Hindi? That's kind of funny.
That is kind of funny. Yeah, very cool.
The thing at the end where he completely changes his face.
Yeah.
Like he just covers his face up. Really interesting.
That is pretty neat. Yeah, I knew that they were trying to make this into a scary story, body horror type thing. Because I had heard, and I'm not going to get the quote right, but I had heard James Gunn say something like, we were sitting in a writer's room and people were pitching the ideas for the movies that they were going to do with his DC rebrand and reboot. And he said when one of the writers pitched him the idea of a Clayface movie and what it would be like in this body horror thing, he was like, I was all over it. He was like, absolutely, this is what we need to do. But it looks very different than, James Gunn's first movie, which was Superman, which I love. It's one of my favorite movies.
Yeah, I love it too.
Was bright, kind of heroic, and even the villains in the universe weren't as dark and sinister as what we just saw. But yeah, it's interesting. I never thought of doing, like, I've always known Clayface as a villain in the Batman story. Has one of my favorite episodes in Batman the Animated Series is the Clayface episode. It's a 2-parter. It's really good. But I never thought we'd see an adaptation of Clayface on the screen. And so that could be fun because we've seen, the Riddler, we've seen Joker. How many times have we seen Joker? He has his own standalone movie too. So we've seen a lot of the main Batman villains, but Clayface is one that I feel like gets overlooked a lot of the time, and he's pretty cool. And
are there the Batman universe better than I do? Are there any large like stories built around Clayface, or is this just a character that like recurs a couple of times?
So the largest in the comics, I don't recall there being, off the top of my head, I don't recall there being like a large story surrounding him. The one story that I know of, the one that I've grown up on knowing, is the one from the Batman animated series, which was my first, true entrance into Batman. And in that story, he is an actor, a very successful actor, but he uses this chemical compound that is given to him by Daggett Industries, and he's able to change his face. His face is horribly disfigured, and without it, he would not be the star in these movies. He would be a monster. So he puts this clay on his face that it allows him to get rid of his impairments. And in return for this stuff, he has to do bad things for Daggett. He goes and does like robberies and things like that. But because he can change his face, he goes and he will manipulate his face, go perform the crime, and then change his face back. Because no one will know who he is. But what happens is that he needs more supply, and he doesn't want to work for Daggett anymore. So they like throw him or put him in a vat of the stuff. And it's classic chemical. Like, instead of just using the putty for the face, he falls into this thing or gets covered in this stuff. I forget how it happens, but he gets covered in this stuff and it absorbs into every cell of his body. And he basically turns to a pile of mud. They think they've killed him, but he learns to reshape himself into this Clayface. But when he is Clayface, he is a monster. He is a mud-looking giant monster thing, but he can transform his body into anything he wants to. He turns into Bruce Wayne. Anything he touches, he can turn into. So he can disguise himself. You never know where he's at. In fact, he has a really great twist at the end of the video game Batman Arkham City. Really, really fascinating Clayface reveal. But yeah, he's pretty cool, but that's kind of the story. And then he uses his powers to take revenge against Daggett for doing this to him. But of course, Batman is like, you're also, hurting people, so we've got to stop you. But
I wonder what this movie in particular means for the larger, like, new DCU that they're trying to build. Like,
well, the timing of this movie is interesting because they haven't put out, they haven't made James Gunn's new Batman movie, because James Gunn is working on a Batman movie that is separate from Robert Pattinson's Batman movie. because they're still making that Robert Pattinson Batman movie, and I love that movie. Robert Pattinson's become one of my new favorite Batmans. I don't know. But anyway, but they haven't actually made a new Batman movie yet with his new cast and his new Batman story and what Gotham is like and what the Gotham universe is going to be like as compared to Metropolis that we saw in Superman. So to start with a Batman villain movie is interesting. And it's also like if the first villain that we're getting a look at in the Batman universe is Clayface, what does that mean for the overarching story of what James Gunn will tell? But we could
be honest. I'm not sure what your ideal like Batman DCU evolves into, but like we've seen the Joker a lot, right?
Yeah.
And we've seen the Penguin
it's
here
oversaturated.
And there. I would love it if they took kind of like the B-roll villains and did more with them. Like,
you know who they've done it before, but it doesn't count because it was Arnold Schwarzenegger. Does not count. I would love for them to do more with Mr. Freeze. Mr. Freeze is one of my favorite Batman villains because his story is kind of tragic. Like he is trying to save his wife, who is terminally ill, and he's put her in like cryogenic, and he's trying to find a cure, but then he himself falls into this like cryogenic stuff and he becomes Mr. Freeze, and he has to live inside a suit that regulates his body temperature and keeps him cold, right? But he's also like committing crimes, trying to find and steal equipment that he can use to save his wife Nora. And I don't know, I've always thought that Mr. Freeze was an interesting villain. One of the coolest things that I saw them do with Mr. Freeze, because his story was always what I just told you, where like he's trying to save his wife Nora. In the New 52, I think I have this right. At the end of the New 52 start of Batman, the Court of the Owls, which is another villain group I would love to see them do, is the Court of the Owls. You kind of find out that the woman that Mr. Freeze is saying is his wife actually isn't. And that was a really nice twist because in that one they were like, he's saying, I'm trying to save my wife Nora, you know the story of Mr. Freeze. But then at the end of that one, it just turns out that she was some woman that he was infatuated with, that he literally just kidnapped and stole. And it was like, wow, I don't know. I just really thought that was a really cool twist on Mr. Freeze.
That could be an interesting take for sure.
Because there's a lot of Batman villains out there that they haven't used a ton.
It does seem like they're building like a horror style Batman universe, which the most obvious choice for me to throw in there is Scarecrow.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But I don't know. I would like to see like a full on the Purge style Batman, like just like a night of like. If it were me, I would release movies like this, Clayface, like do 2 or 3 villain pieces, but make them creepy as hell.
Yeah.
And then do like a Purge style Batman movie where like all of the creepiest villains have decided that tonight's the night that they take over Gotham, and Batman just has to face like one horror show after the other.
Could do kind of like Batman Arkham City into a movie, where in that game part of the city was turned into an asylum where they were like, to contain crime, we'll just give them a part of Gotham City to stay in, and all they are allowed to do whatever they want to do in there as long as it doesn't spill over. And that I don't know, that was interesting.
You could also do something like do you remember the was it, I think it was called Night Terrors? It was that comic run where like everybody was stuck in like a dream horrorscape of themselves.
Yes,
Like there was
I
like the
do
Green
remember that.
Lantern, Night Terror, and the like every character, every superhero had their own version.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, it'd be interesting to do something like that.
Yeah.
Um,
Is there a villain in mind that you would like to see on the screen that maybe you haven't seen a ton? Do you know of any? Is there any Batman villain that comes to mind that you would just, or maybe a mainline one? Is there any Batman villain that comes to mind that you think you would like to see a standalone movie about? More into them and who they are.
it's a good question. Uh,
I know you like Poison Ivy. That's what I was,
yeah, but no one's ever gonna get Poison Ivy right.
you little face.
I have no faith in men making superhero movies to do Poison Ivy in a way that makes sense. Um, if somebody was like, I want to make Willow Wilson's Poison Ivy, I'd be on board with that
Yeah,
because I
maybe
think
that's
that would
what
be a fun
maybe
movie.
that's what James Gunn could do. He can go get G. Willow Wilson to
Help with the screenplay for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't know. But I mean, like, I do like this kind of like horror Batman. I always feel like Batman is at its best when it's really dark.
Well, see, that's why the Robert Pattinson Batman movie, when I went to go see it, was one of my favorites because it was so dark.
Yeah.
And Robert Pattinson as Bruce Wayne, I liked what they did with him because Bruce Wayne, by all accounts, should be a complete psychopath. I mean, he is this dude who is dressing up like a bat and is jumping off rooftops and beating criminals to a bloody pulp. Guy is not right in his head. And in all respect, he should be in Arkham Asylum with them.
Yeah.
But he's not. And as much as I like the Christian Bale and Michael Keaton, they played Bruce Wayne where he was all of a sudden like, look at me, I am a billionaire socialite, I can do this. I am charming, I am fun, I am crazy, I do this. Whereas like Robert Pattinson's Batman movie, he was Bruce Wayne in like 2 scenes, and he is a recluse who doesn't come out of Wayne Tower. And he's in his Batman costume more because that's truly who he is. When he puts on the Batman outfit, now Bruce Wayne's gone. Bruce Wayne is the alternate, is the identity. Him as Batman's who he truly is. So that's why I really like that movie.
Yeah. I don't know. I'd like to just, like I said, I'd like to throw the horror characters in there. So I'd like to see more from like Scarecrow. I think he's an underutilized character. I feel like that could be a real horror show.
Yeah, I love Scarecrow. He's one of my favorite villains.
It'd be interesting to see like a darker version of Bane, like we've gotten in the newer runs of Absolute Batman.
Agreed. I do, because his origin story would be interesting because he's a prisoner on that island, and having a movie that shows the trials that he has to go through as a kid, where the tide comes in and he has to swim all day and all night long not to drown, and he does that for years. What kind of man, what kind of person does something like that breed? If you were a child and you fight for your life and you're eating rats and you're eating and you're surviving off of just filth and nothing.
Yeah.
What does that do to a person? I think is a good story to explore.
Yeah. I mean, because like Batman has a bunch of, I mean, all villains are serial killers really, but Batman has a bunch of villains in particular that could be like distinctly classified as serial killers.
They're the best.
And it would be really interesting to see like that kind of Batman movie.
Mm-hmm.
But
yeah.
And also like, I don't know, I feel like they just, they tell the same Batman story every time. It's like, here's Batman, his parents died, he's sad. We're going to talk about that.
Yeah. Let's tell another
story. I'm over it. We all know who Batman is. We all know who the Joker is.
Exactly.
Let's move on.
Let's tell another Batman story about a guy who loses his parents and decides to fight crime. Okay, cool.
Yay.
That's why, like, so the Batman's cool. Don't let me tell you Batman's not. Batman's cool. I wish I was Batman all the time. But Batman is badass. But I think that where Batman's story really shines is because he has such great villains who are, even from writing David Red stories, I learned early on that like a story or a hero is only as good as his villain. Same thing with the Bond villains. The movies, the Bond movies that stand out are the ones that had the creepiest, coolest villains. And Batman, has that advantage that he has so many just fascinatingly written villains that makes what he does and how he reacts to them interesting.
Yeah.
Because once you've heard his story, and like I said, there's ways to probably tell Batman. So I felt like Robert Pattinson's, that Batman story brought a unique perspective to it because they did lean into the fact that he's more of a psychopath. It's the same reason why I think the Punisher television show is better than the Punisher movie with Thomas Jane. I love the Punisher movie with Thomas Jane. It's really good. But what I think, Thomas Jane played it where you were rooting for him and he was really heroic in that movie. Whereas like in the Punisher television show with John Bernthal is that like he is psychotic and you're like, this man is not well. The Punisher is not well. And I feel like, that's why I like the Batman movie so much. And there's an interesting way to tell those stories where like the hero of it is also just as crazy as these people and they have to turn to him. The system in this city of Gotham is so broken that we have to turn to a psychopath dressed like a bat to get any type of like, that's a good story.
Yeah. I don't know. I have high hopes for what James Gunn will do with this. I feel like the Superman we got was a slightly different Superman than we would normally get. It was more like Superman
perfect.
the man as opposed to Superman the superhero.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of hope we keep getting these like more personal takes on the DC universe, which I think is what actually made a lot of the Marvel movies good in the beginning.
Yeah, like that's where I think superheroes are really shine or can be told well is when you put them not so much as like the power that they have or the things that they're able to do, but the human side, the human element of someone with this power. Well, like in Spider-Man, with great power comes great responsibility. I think that's where like superhero stories really shine, and what you kind of as a writer kind of have to think about when you're going to write. Like if I was tasked with writing a superhero story, I would think more about the human element, the humanity side of someone who does this or this power is thrust upon them, what that would be like from being a human being living in the world that we live in, because the world that we live in is pretty dark and it's pretty awful. So like those are the things I would try to think about. And that's why I think, like you said, Superman was so good because they didn't make a movie. And a lot of like people complained about it because they were like, Superman got his ass kicked for a lot of it, but like he kind of always does in the comics anyway. And I think telling a story about a person with so much of that ability and so much of that power, what that is like as Clark Kent, who has that power. I don't know.
Yeah, I always think the stories are better when they're a little bit more personal, which, speaking of, you and I went back and watched some of our favorite shows this week. We traded.
We traded shows.
We each gave each other a homework assignment, basically. Season 1, episode 1 of each of our favorite shows. So for me, that was
I didn't realize
Psych.
and did not realize that our shows had come out the same year.
Yes, our favorite shows came out the same year, and they were both basically procedural cop shows, but with a twist. So
there was 2006
was mine.
Is when these shows came out.
Right.
And yours was?
Psych was mine. It came out in, as you said, 2006. It is a show, for those who haven't seen it, it's like a buddy cop comedy, basically about a guy whose father was a cop who was trying to turn him into a cop his entire life, but he didn't want to be one. But he has a bunch of special skills now because of it. And he uses those skills to pretend to be a psychic and help out the police. And then your favorite show was Dexter. Mm-hmm. So a serial killer who kills other serial killers.
Who's also
just bad people.
Yeah. Not a cop, but a forensic scientist.
Yeah.
There's a difference.
It was really funny to learn that both of our shows came out in the same year that we consider to be our favorite shows, which I wonder if, like, your favorite show is just the thing you watched when you were between the ages of, like, 15 and 20 or something like that.
Yeah, it hit me just right when Dexter came out.
Yeah. But what did you think of Psych?
Yeah, so I watched Psych. I didn't know anything about the show. I did not know the premise. So I went into it completely blind. And I really liked it. Like from the start, I really enjoyed, the way it begins with him sitting there in the restaurant and having to remember all these details. His dad's playing a game with him so that he can get this piece of cake that he wants. That he has to recall all the hats in the room. And I thought, damn, like, who is this kid? How is he this smart? And then, cut to him as an adult, and he's, making out with this girl, and here's a report on the television, and is able to solve the crime from watching the TV. I just thought it was really funny. It was really funny setup, a really funny premise. I like a show that has a gimmick.
Yeah.
And something that keeps the gimmick going. And with this one being like, he's super smart and is very perceptive. But they think that he is a psychic medium of some type, and he can't tell them the truth. So he plays along that, like, his because he's just so perceptive and so smart and it's so detailed and remembers details, he can kind of pretend that he's a psychic to solve these crimes, and now is kind of doing that as a job. I think that's a pretty funny setup, and the episode was really funny. There were some good bits in it and everything, and now they've got the episode ends with them and their detective agency called Psych. But yeah, I didn't know why the show was called Psych. I didn't really know anything about the show. I know you had made mention of it a few times and saying like, oh, this reminds me of this thing from Psych. And so now I have a little more context for that, because I didn't know that he was pretending to be a psychic the whole time. But it was pretty neat. I also like, because it came out in 2006, I liked the style.
Yeah.
The hairstyles, the clothing, the music choices in the show was definitely like, yeah, this feels like high school for me. But yeah, very, very neat. Never saw that, which is crazy because you said it came on USA, and I was like, man, like I remember watching some USA programming around that time. Like I was still watching WWE wrestling every now and again. I think SmackDown was on USA, so I was like, I had to have seen ads for it, but I never watched it. But good show. I would watch more of it. It was good.
Yeah.
What did you think watching it again? Did it bring back any good memories of that, watching it again?
I've honestly probably watched Psych through like 10 times.
Really?
It's a show that I've watched a lot.
So why do you like it so much? What draws you to it so much? Anything in particular?
It has the like intrigue of being a procedural cop show, but it's funnier than that. Like they keep the jokes going through the whole thing. They get a lot of actors who were popular in the 80s in it. Because it's just their thing, and Sean and Gus like technically would have grown up in the 80s, so they make like a lot of jokes and reference a lot of things that happened in the 80s, so it's kind of like a running bit in the show. There's a pineapple in every episode, so you can always just watch and look out for that.
It's a weird detail.
But I don't know, I think the relationship between Sean and Gus, who are the two main characters, is so good, and the supporting cast is so good at what they do, and the relationship between like Sean and his father, how that evolves over time. It's just it's an interesting watch on like a lot of levels, but it's also just one of those things that's like, because it's my favorite show, it's like a comfort food. So like if I remember being like sick with the flu one time, and I just like watched Psych until I felt better. So it was just like I would be like in and out of consciousness, but like watching a part of it, and it was just kind of like keeping me going as I like wanted to die.
Yeah.
So it's just one of those things that like if I'm having a rough go of it at any given time, I will put Psych on to make myself feel better.
Yeah.
But we got to watch your favorite show as well,
Dexter,
which was Dexter.
Yes.
Which I had heard of but never watched. And that was interesting. I gotta say, in the first like 10, 15 minutes of that show, I was like, this is probably not for me. Like,
was it the violence?
Pretty, yeah, like it's pretty dark right from the get-go.
Mm-hmm.
And he's obviously supposed to be a sociopath, which he is because he's a serial killer.
Mm-hmm.
So there's not like a lot, you don't get a lot of emotion from him because he's supposed to play it really blank. So I was just like, I don't really know what I'm supposed to hold on to here to keep it interesting. But then as the show goes on, you see where the interesting is. Like he's trying to blend into society so that he doesn't get caught, and he has to like pretend basically his entire life to be like an interesting, affable person. And the characters around him are interesting.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, the more I watched it, the more I was intrigued by it, to the point where like I would definitely continue to watch it and see how that character arc develops. But if I had put it on by myself and didn't know that it was your favorite show, I probably would have turned it off after like 10 or 15 minutes. Like, this is probably not. I'm not the target audience for this, but I actually probably am.
Out
yeah,
on so much. Dexter is a fascinating character because he should be the villain. He's what he does is bad, right? We consider that bad. Serial killers bad, killing people bad. But he's got that moral code because without his dad's teaching, who was a cop, and he recognized the early signs, Dexter would be a full-blown serial killer.
Interesting that we have cop dads in both.
Yeah, we do. We have cop dads in both who taught their kids. So this is why, like, when I was watching, and I remember thinking this, like, there are two cop dads who actually taught their kids cop stuff.
Yeah.
And, you know, just the only thing is, like, where the one guy is pretending to be a psychic, Dexter is a serial killer.
But he is helping to solve crimes. They're both helping to solve crimes.
He's a forensic scientist who solves crimes. It's just that when he figures out who done it, he goes and kills them. But he's a fascinating character because, you know, he would be a serial killer, but he has this moral code that keeps him from going off the deep end. And so he's the hero, right? He's a hero. He doesn't necessarily save anybody, but he stops these bad people from doing something, which inevitably would save someone, another victim or something like that. But you're right. He is emotionless. He feels nothing. He fakes all of the emotions that he has and all the relationships that he has throughout the show. He fakes it. And I just think that is very fascinating that, like, he tries so hard to blend in to not get caught. And you, as a person who watched the show, as you go through and you really start to, you know, root for Dexter, you don't want him to get caught. You want him to continue killing people. And it's just, it's really interesting. I was really drawn to it because, you know, I was a big fan of reading the Punisher comics and Batman and Daredevil, vigilantes.
Yeah.
And so when I watch the show Dexter, it almost feels like a real life vigilante. If there was such thing, if a vigilante or the Punisher could be real, they would be a serial killer type. I mean, look how many people the Punisher has killed. He doesn't leave anyone alive. That's his thing. He kills them. So, and they kind of play on that later in the Dexter story, because when it comes, you know, when he gets a nickname, you know how the serial killers have a nickname. When Dexter gets a nickname in the show, there's a graphic novelist comic book that kind of comes out based on him, and he's looking at himself as this comic book character at one of the scenes, and it's kind of like, and then he has a thought of like, look at all that black. Ooh, black is too hot in this Miami heat. Would never do. But yeah, it felt comic bookish, but kind of like a real life real life thing. I was wondering if something like that could happen. Could there be a serial killer who goes around? Is there someone taking out serial killers? I don't know.
I don't know if there's enough serial killers in the world for that at this moment, but
That's
we'll see, I
kind
guess.
that's kind of the funny thing about Dexter, though, is that like it needs to do a lot of like, hey, there are a bunch of serial killers in Miami, Florida running around the streets.
That's what I was saying. That's one of the jokes that I made when we started watching this. I was like, so does Miami just have a higher density of serial killers than anywhere else in the world?
There are a lot of serial
with?
killers in Miami, Florida.
Yeah.
So Dexter is clearly not doing a good job. But you know, but yeah, it's a great show. The first 4 seasons of Dexter definitely are really great. I think it does fall off a little bit after season 4.
So I've heard.
But and they recently brought it back. I saw season 9, what's considered season 9. I have not seen the newest one, but I hear it's good.
Well, we'll have to keep watching both of these and report back, see if we still feel the same way about these shows as we did the last time that we saw them or when we were kids. But we watched 2 other things that we used to watch when we were much younger, which we talked about on Mildly Alarmed this week, how we kind of had rough weeks in general. And I don't know about other millennials, but for myself, when I am feeling particularly down, I go back to Disney. And thus we decided to watch Toy Story and The Lion King last night, of all things. When was the last time you watched Toy Story or The Lion King?
The Lion King, actually, this is kind of funny. It's the last time I watched them both were around the same time. Yeah, it was a couple of years ago. I have the Toy Story is one of my top 10 favorite movies. I would put it in my top 10, Toy Story. And it's definitely one of my favorite Disney movies. I guess it's considered a Disney movie, right? It's Pixar, but that's a company of Disney, so I guess it's a Disney movie.
Disney owns it now, so we'll call it a Disney movie.
I watched it a few years ago. I got the Blu-ray box set. Toy Story 1, 2, and 3. 4 doesn't exist. They never made a 4th Toy Story. Just the 3.
Sure.
And I was watching it, and I just, I love that movie so much, and it still holds up for me. It's kind of fun to go back now and look at the animation and how much animation has changed, but I still think that everything they did in that first Toy Story movie is just simply amazing. Story's so good, and of course, the music, is amazing.
Do you get any like specific feelings or memories about it when you watch it that you like felt when you were a kid?
Yes. I just remember I always felt like I gave emotions to things that were inanimate.
Yeah.
Before the movie. I played with a lot of toys. I have some over here. I have a ton in the closet. And so the toys were a big part of my life growing up. They were special to me. They helped me with my imagination. I loved pretending. And so when I went to go see that movie, and it was a movie about how toys are real and they actually feel things, it was like, but of course. And it only
proved what you thought was true.
Yeah, it only strengthened that even into my adult years. I remember early on in dating you, I was riding down the road and I saw a stuffed bunny rabbit on the side of the road, and I like damn near crashed the car. I was like, we are not leaving this stuffed bunny rabbit out here by itself. Okay.
I'm pretty sure I had to convince you to throw that out because it was probably filled with bugs.
But like, I don't know, like I remember just that kind of feeling of like, it was magical in a way that like, it felt like I was right in my thinking that toys do feel, and they are supposed to be treated with respect, and they're special, and you should keep them and you should take care of them. But I also remember just, wanting those toys, and, I have a few. I actually have my Woody doll that I got from Burger King is right over there. I still have it. I thought the Woody doll from Burger King was way cooler than the one that Disney actually put out. He was too thick. And the Woody doll from Burger King right over there was floppy and everything. So yeah, I don't know. Those toys, those characters were just so cool. And yeah, it's just always fun to go back and revisit that and just remember what it was like as a kid playing with those toys and how, I just at that time when that movie came out and playing with those toys, I didn't have anything. I worried about things, but there were things as you worry about as a kid, and it was just, I wish I could. I never thought that I'd be one of the kind of people saying that I wish I could go back to that moment. But because you I would hear adults say like, "Oh, you'll wish one day you could go back to this and do it again."
Yeah.
And although my childhood wasn't amazing, there were times of just being by myself playing with toys, and damn, had it good. Had it good.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm trying to think. I know my mom always says when The Lion King came out, we went to see it like 5 or 6 times during that one summer because I loved it so much. But I still to this day think it's the best music that Disney's ever come up with in a movie.
Yeah.
I think the songs are great. There's no one that drags, which The Lion King 2, travesty that it is, has like one good song and the rest drag. So
it's better than Phil Collins' Tarzan.
No, but props to Disney for coming up with a solid soundtrack for that first one. But I like you. I was obsessed with like big cats when I was little for some reason. I just thought they were really cool. And so that movie proved me right. And I remember having just like all of the Lion King toys, and I would just sit there in the living room and just act out scenes from the Lion King or write my own version of the Lion King.
I had that video game. That video game is hard.
Well, every Disney video game from when we were kids was hard.
Yeah, Toy Story was hard too.
Yeah, so was the Aladdin game. But yeah, no, I don't know. I guess like all Disney movies, they just like remind you of a happier time for the most part. Or a time when you were more like carefree and you could just like hang out all afternoon and you play with your toys.
Yeah.
So really it was fun to revisit those again. And I tend to do that every time I'm like sick. So it's like my go-to for like I need a legitimate like real pick me up and something that makes me feel like I have no problems in the world. And I fall back into Disney movies to do that.
Most of my memories of The Lion King were through my sister, who, like you, really loved that movie. And 2 things come to mind. One, I remember for a while there she was running around on all 4s like a lion, which was kind of impressive to be able to do that, honestly. What a feat of strength and stamina. But there was also, she had this stuffed Simba, and I remember she carried that Simba everywhere. And I don't know if she even still has it. She might still have it, to be honest with you. But I think by now, or I remember at some point seeing it and it being so old that it was unrecognizable as being a lion. It was just a mad image.
Something just popped in my head when you said that. I think I had a young Simba backpack. Remember when Disney was making backpacks?
Yes.
That were like characters and you could, like unzip them, but they were also kind of like plushy. So you could like, it was just it was a nice comforting backpack. I remember having that backpack when I was a kid.
Yeah.
But last but not least, this week I also watched The Witcher season 4, which I'm not done with. I have 2 episodes left.
Okay.
But I have been putting it off because Henry Cavill will always be The Witcher to me because, I mean, look at him. He's amazing. He's the best Witcher. And I did not know how I would feel about Liam Hemsworth, but earlier this week I was like looking through Netflix for new things to watch, and that trailer popped up again. And I really like the women in that show. I like amazing. The actresses who play Ciri and Yennefer.
Yennefer's so cool.
Yeah, she's great. And so I was like, all right, we'll give the Hemsworth a shot. If nothing else, maybe he just won't be in a lot of scenes and it'll go fine.
The few times that I don't know what it's like because I've only watched like a few parts with you while I was reading, and I didn't see really Hemsworth in it at all. So is he in it a ton?
Because the characters are all split up, he's not in it as much. So like previous seasons, they were together a lot more, and so they were in scenes together a lot more. They do change some things about his character. They make him like a more emotional version of Geralt, which fits for Hemsworth's acting because he's good at emoting. But and Ciri's gone, and both him and Yennefer are looking for her. So I don't know. So far, I don't mind him. Every time he comes on screen, I'm kind of like, eh.
Yeah.
But
does it hurt your heart a little bit?
Decent job. Yeah, exactly.
That's
like I'm like, God, I wish I could see this with Henry Cavill being Geralt, but like, it's not the worst. He does a decent job, but he's just not as like.
What a position for Hemsworth to be in as an actor, though, because you gotta know he's gonna know that no matter how good the job he does, people are still gonna be like, God, wish it was Henry Cavill.
Yeah. And they're only doing one more season, so they say.
Oh, okay.
So he's basically in the penultimate season and then the ultimate season. I don't know. I don't hate him, but again, not Henry Cavill. So, it's hard to say.
Yeah. So let's put Hemsworth on the shelf real quick. Let's put him aside.
Yeah.
Let's say that we would have gotten Henry Cavill to come back, Witcher season 4. How is the show, though, putting Hemsworth aside and casting change aside, how is the show compared to the other 3? Because I liked the first season. I loved the second season. The third season was okay. How is the fourth? It's just a show, putting casting aside, just looking at it as a show.
It's an interesting season. You can tell they're trying to tie up a lot of loose ends to make way for the final season. So a lot of things are moving rather quickly. But I kind of do like that everybody's focused on one through line now, which is Ciri. Because there was a lot to follow. I almost want to go back and just watch the whole thing again because I feel like there was a lot to follow in previous seasons where like everybody had their own motivations, their own things they were doing.
Well, they did.
It was a little bit hard to track what everybody's motivations were at any given time sometimes. And now everybody's motivations are basically the same. Like
we need to
they either want to kill Ciri or they want to save Ciri or they want to. One dude, her dad, I guess, wants to marry her. Weird.
Oh yeah, that was weird. I did. So I was reading while I was listening, and I thought I heard some dude say something that was along the lines. I was like, wait a second, is he talking about marrying his daughter?
Yeah.
And I was like, surely I didn't hear that right. I was like, wait a minute. The way he's saying, the way he's referring to her makes it seem like but he's talking about marriage, so I can't be. Maybe I came in at a strange point and I've missed the context. But so that's the case. He wants to marry.
That was the context, yeah. So like I said, I have 2 episodes left, so I don't feel like I have a fully formed opinion of how I feel about season 4 yet. I still do miss Henry Cavill, but Hemsworth isn't doing a terrible job. So we'll see. I'm really curious to see how they land season 4 and what we're supposed to expect for season 5.
Yeah. Well, the night that I think you started watching it, I started playing Stray.
That's right.
That's when I started playing Stray. I really enjoy this game. You play as a cat. So I think that's fun. And I have named, the cat doesn't have a name in the game, at least not that I know of yet. So I've named it Milo. But it's really a fun little game and an interesting story, interesting world. It's very, very bizarre when you get to like the Dead City part. It's like in this abandoned city and there's like robots everywhere.
What's the plot? Like, is there something leading you?
Yeah, so like right now for me, I've only been playing it for about an hour and a half maybe. And you're a cat on the outside of this giant wall in this very overgrown, lush area, but there's like pipes and catwalks everywhere, but everything's all overgrown. And you are one of a litter of 4, and you're running around with your cat buddies being cats. And you slip and you fall into this chasm, and your little cat buddies are just watching you disappear. You fall into this chasm and you wake up at the bottom of this pit, and there's like these weird bugs everywhere, these weird critter creatures, and you kind of move out, and then you end up in this city. It's called this dead city. There's no humans anywhere, but it seems like they were once there, but I don't know if they put their conscience in AI or AI is taking over, but right now there's all these like droids everywhere who are doing tasks of like sweeping up and everything, and they're very scared of these bug critters, and these bug critters like attack you. I have since found this little robot called B12 who is kind of following me around and kind of helps and can communicate to you and to the other robots, and we're trying to get back to the surface, and help these androids. So yeah, that's kind of what's going on, but a lot of the game is figuring out how to navigate these areas. You can jump and do all kinds of things, and a lot of it is just jumping from pipe to pipe to rooftop and moving around and looking for things and trying to make your way through this maze, this labyrinth of a ruined city. But it was a pretty neat little game, just from the perspective of playing as a cat. It's pretty cool.
Yeah.
I gotta say, it's pretty
cool. So
you're
trying to like get back to your cat friends?
Well, that's what I'm trying to do, but it seems like that's what I'm trying to do. Personal motivation, but it seems like I have met these this village of robots, and it seems like they have a motivation too, and they've kind of recruited me, which is kind of funny because they're like, we really need your help, and I was like, you do realize that I'm a cat?
Do they want you to fight the bugs? Is that
yeah, they want me, like right now I left off where they gave me a transceiver that I'm supposed to go put on this building so that their elevator works again. And I'm like, he's like, we really need you to do it. We need you to go over there and like install this transceiver. And I'm like, you know, I'm a cat. Like, I'm looking at my 2 cats sitting right over here, and I'm like, there ain't no way I would trust them with anything like that.
I think Norbit could do it.
Norbit might could. Rona, though.
Rona can barely jump onto the counters. She's so chunky.
Yeah, she ain't going nowhere. But yeah, no, it's fun. It's fun game to play from the perspective of a cat. Pretty cool.
Yeah.
Pretty cool. Little different flavor than the Lightkeeper that I was playing the other day. Little better than that. Not as scary.
Yeah. Nice to end on. It seems like we're all trying to end on lighter things this week, minus maybe The Witcher. It's a little in between, but
this week sucked. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, at least we still have Disney and adorable critter games like Pokopia, which I'm still playing, or Stray to keep us afloat.
Keep us afloat. Keep us going.
That's why we're calling this the Multiverse of Merriment.
Yep.
Things that are keeping us afloat. All right. Well, if you want to tell us what you think of the Clayface trailer or any of the happier things that you did this week that we should maybe take a look at, games, comics, anything else?
Yeah, give us inspiration. Please. What comic should I be reading, guys?
Yeah, drop us a comment and let us know. But as always, new episodes of the Multiverse of Merriment will come out on Thursdays at 6 a.m. and Thursdays at 7 p.m. You will be playing Phasmophobia again?
That's right. We'll be playing Phasmophobia. Getting much better at it. Been studying up, and I think shaking off some of the dust. We were able to successfully identify a few ghosts in our last playthroughs. We leveled up a little bit, got some money, got some new gadgets to find some ghosts. So 7 o'clock, we'll be jumping back into Phasmophobia and having some more fun with that. We're trying to get the old band back together too, so I'll see if I can do that.
And what channel are you streaming that one on?
We'll be streaming that on Adekashi's YouTube page. So look up Adakashi, and you'll be able to find that. It's her stream, her page, her thing. She just allows me to be on there, and so that's what we'll be doing. We'll be doing that Thursday, 7.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right. Well, we will link to that in the show notes as well. But that's where we'll leave it for this week. So until next time.
Take it easy.